Meghan Markle has introduced a 2023 rosé from Napa Valley under her rebranded lifestyle label As Ever, a move that officially marks her entry into the alcohol industry. But this isn't just another product drop.
It was supposed to be Meghan Markle's elegant comeback, a luxury lifestyle flex, a soft rebrand, served chilled in a tall-stemmed glass of Napa Valley rose. But what was meant to be a toast to sophistication turned into a public spit because Meghan's latest venture, her As Ever, wine brand hasn't just flopped. It's been dragged, roasted, and completely humiliated on a global stage.
Casting deals that fizzled to branding pivots that confused even loyal followers. American Riviera Orchard came and went without clarity, and now As Ever appears to be the latest attempt to stake a claim in the oversaturated lifestyle market.
And if you think this is just about wine, think again. It's about what happens when the public finally stops buying what a brand is selling, especially when that brand is a person, especially when that person is Meghan Markle. Before we dive deeper into the viral backlash, Jon Stewart's savage takedown and the silent betrayal from Hollywood's elite, make sure you subscribe right now. We break stories the media avoids, cut through the spin, and bring you the truth no filter. No fluff. Now let's talk about what went wrong and why it's bigger than a bad bottle of rose. The launch of As Ever was supposed to feel ethereal hand-picked grapes, sun-drenched vineyards, feminine notes of wildflower and elegance. The promotional photos were dripping with curated simplicity. Meghan barefoot in a vineyard, soft linen dress blowing in the breeze, sipping wine at golden hour like she was on the cover of a dream. It was all very calculated. But as soon as the bottle hit shelves, the fantasy began to fall apart. Wine critics were the first to pounce. Words like flat, watery, and forgettable dominated early reviews. One sommelier even described it as a lifestyle product disguised as a wine. That's code for, this isn't for tasting, it's for Instagram. And the problem is, people aren't stupid. You can dress it up in all the fancy branding you want, but at the end of the day, the product has to deliver. And then came Jon Stewart. In a segment on The Daily Show, Stewart, with his trademark deadpan, took a sip of As Ever live on air. He paused, smirked, and said, "I've had tap water with more character." The studio audience erupted, but behind the laughter was a very real truth. Stewart didn't just criticize the wine, he exposed the illusion. In one sentence, he did what months of critics, bloggers, and social media skeptics had been circling around. He said what everyone was thinking. Meghan Markle's empire isn't built on quality, it's built on image. And the moment that image cracked, the ridicule came flooding in across TikTok, Twitter, Reddit, and X. Users began sharing their brutally honest reactions. One viral post read, "This tastes like regret and PR strategy." Another, "We thought it would be more than just wine. Turns out it's just another cash grab with a royal sticker slapped on it." Even the rollout strategy raised eyebrows. Launching the wine on July 1st, Princess Diana's birthday, felt tone-deaf at best and exploitative at worst. A royal insider told reporters that Prince William was disgusted by the choice. After all, Diana famously advocated for mental health, compassion, and service, not commercializing her memory for lifestyle branding. That decision didn't go unnoticed by Harry, either. According to a source close to the couple, Meghan was celebrating in the kitchen after launch day while Harry was visibly upset, quietly reflecting on the mother he lost. And if that contrast doesn't tell you everything about their current dynamic, nothing will. But even more telling was the deafening silence from Meghan's A-list inner circle. No Oprah, no Serena, no Priyanka, no reposts, no congratulations, no promotional love. These are the same people who once sang Meghan's praises on global stages. The same people who reposted her wedding photos, her Spotify launch, her ArcuWell charity work. But now, crickets. Why? Because the wine was already being called underwhelming by industry insiders. Early tastings didn't impress. And in a business built on buzz, silence can be fatal if your own circle won't touch your brand. The writing's on the wall. Even high-end retailers began backing away. One West Coast boutique reported that customers were coming in not to buy As Ever, but to laugh at it. "People are asking for Jon Stewart's grape water," a store clerk told reporters. "It's a joke now, and jokes don't sell." That's when Meghan's PR team kicked into crisis mode. Carefully planted think pieces started appearing online. Headlines praised Meghan for bravely entering the male-dominated wine industry. Others lauded her modern feminist take on vineyard culture, but audiences weren't buying it. The tone felt forced, the timing felt desperate, and the narrative once again felt overly scripted. One media analyst nailed it. "This isn't bad press. It's the public finally waking up." It's overexposure meeting under delivery. Because let's face it, this isn't Meghan's first flop. Spotify dropped her after one season. Netflix buzz-faded Archetypes was quietly shelved. Even her children's book, once hyped as a heartfelt bestseller, faded into obscurity. Now, As Ever was supposed to be her Gwyneth Paltrow moment, her goop, her empire. But instead, it's quickly becoming her biggest embarrassment yet. And yet, the most disturbing part might not be the wine at all. It's Meghan's ongoing obsession with Princess Diana's legacy. Sources say that during the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, Meghan reportedly told Prince Harry that Diana spoke to her during a yoga session. Yes, you heard that right. Apparently, she channels Diana's spirit while stretching into downward dog. At what point does admiration turn into appropriation? The launch of As Ever on Diana's birthday wasn't just a misstep, it was a message. A message that Meghan still sees herself as Diana's spiritual successor. That her pain, her struggle, her fight for freedom mirrors Diana's. But that's not how the public sees it. Because actions speak louder than narratives. And Meghan's actions are looking more like self-promotion than self-sacrifice. What makes it worse is the cold business calculation underneath it all. This wasn't an accident. Meghan's team knew the date, knew the optics, and still went ahead. Because they thought the story would sell. They thought that once again, emotional branding would cover up a mediocre product. But this time, the mask didn't hold.
Because, let's be brutally honest, when your entire public identity is built on curated elegance, emotional vulnerability, and royal proximity, you can't afford to miss, especially not in front of a global audience that's already skeptical. And Jon Stewart didn't just call out the wine, he shattered the illusion. In less than 30 seconds, he managed to do what months of press coverage and public speculation had only hinted at he made. Meghan Markle fair game. Mainstream comedians no longer see her as untouchable. That shield of royalty is gone. The victim narrative that once made her untouchable has worn thin, and now, Meghan is being treated like any other out-of-touch, celebrity hawking overpriced nonsense because that's exactly what As Ever looked like. One cultural critic said it best, "It's not just the wine that's bland, it's the entire image she's been selling for years." Even professional wine reviewers, usually more subtle in their takedowns, didn't hold back. Wine Spectator called the rose uninspired and flat. A rival reviewer said, "You're not paying for flavor. You're paying for Meghan's face on a press release." Ouch. But perhaps the most cutting commentary came from an anonymous sommelier who described it as shallow, photogenic, and emotionally hollow. Sound familiar? That's exactly how many of Meghan's critics have described her over the years. It's not just about a failed product, it's about a failed pattern. Because if you zoom out, you start to see the bigger picture. This isn't the first time. Meghan has tried to reinvent herself with a new business venture. First, it was Archetypes, which promised in-depth conversations on labels, empowerment, and womanhood, and then quietly fizzled out. Then came American Riviera Orchard, which launched with a logo, a few cryptic social posts, and zero clarity. That too vanished into the digital fog, and now, As Ever has entered the Aeronond, promptly collapsed under the weight of its own branding. You'd think by now, someone in her inner circle would be honest with her. That maybe, just maybe, time to reassess. But Meghan doesn't operate like that. She operates like a brand. One that prioritizes optics over authenticity, and the public is catching on. The most damning moment came not from the critics or the comedians, but from her own silence. Meghan has said nothing since the backlash. No statement. No live reaction. No press interview. Just silence. Why? Because there's nothing she can say. Because no amount of branding, no reworded press release, no filtered Instagram story can spin what's already been exposed. This wasn't a one-off blunder. This was the final crack in a carefully constructed illusion. Even insiders in the wine distribution business have started pulling away. According to leaked reports, several upscale retailers who had previously agreed to stock As Ever have either canceled or scaled back dramatically. One boutique wine seller in Napa Valley said customers were laughing when they saw the display. Another distributor said they dropped their order after a certain late-night segment went viral. A not-so-subtle reference to Jon Stewart's monologue. When the public turns your product into a punchline, it's game over. Especially when that product was never really about wine. It was about image, about control, about the illusion that Meghan Markle could walk away from royalty, reinvent herself, and still reign supreme in the luxury world. Instead, what we're seeing now is a very public, very expensive lesson in why authenticity matters. Because if we peel back the glitter and Instagram filters, what are we left with? No real business wins, no critical success, no long-lasting creative projects. Just a trail of soft launches, PR resets, and strategic reinventions. 1. Industry Insider said it bluntly. When your entire brand is built on illusion, comedy becomes your worst enemy. And that's what Jon Stewart delivered: comedy with a scalpel. He didn't just review a wine, he reviewed an entire persona. He sliced through the mystique with one line, and the public. They laughed, they agreed, they nodded along like, finally, someone said it. But here's the part Meghan likely didn't expect. The betrayal from her own allies, because in the past, anytime Meghan was dragged in the media, there'd be a rallying cry from Hollywood. Someone would leap to her defense. Oprah, Tyler Perry, Serena, someone. But this time, nothing. No Instagram love. No congratulatory tweets. No carefully staged dinner parties, sipping as ever in candlelight. The silence was thunderous. And it wasn't just random. It was strategic. Word is, even Meghan's closest advisors had reservations. Early tastings were met with awkward silences. Internal reports labeled the wine bland, overpriced, and directionless. PR teams debated whether to delay the launch. Some even suggested skipping the alcohol route entirely. But Meghan pushed ahead because this was supposed to be her moment, her Goop, her Avaline, her billionaire lifestyle brand moment. But instead, she's left with a product mocked online, abandoned in stores, and symbolically torched on national television. And the worst part? This could have been avoided. Had she taken a step back, focused on quality over control, substance over spin, this story could have ended very differently instead. It's becoming a case study in how not to build a personal brand. Because Meghan Markle's downfall isn't about one bad product. It's about the slow erosion of trust. The moment people realize that behind the tears, the trauma, and the titles, there's a playbook, a strategy, a performance. And now, the audience has stopped clapping. Because what happens when a brand built on pity starts generating more eye rolls than empathy? What happens when even your closest allies stop returning your calls? You get silence. And that silence is louder than any headline that has ever. Wine wasn't just a bad bottle, it was a referendum, a test. Would people still buy into the Meghan Markle illusion? Would the audience still applaud the actress-turned-royal-turned-entrepreneur narrative one more time? The answer came swiftly and ruthlessly: no, they wouldn't. And now, Meghan finds herself at a painful crossroads. She could double down again, spin the backlash into another victim narrative. Cue another high-profile interview about misogyny, racism, and the impossible standards of public life. That playbook has worked before. But here's the problem: it's worn out. The audience knows the lines, they've memorized the tears, they've heard the trauma monologues, and they've moved on. Or she could pivot. She could stop the performance. She could pull back the curtain and finally offer something real. Not curated, not photoshopped, not packaged in faux empowerment buzzwords, but genuine, vulnerable, honest. The very thing she claims to be. The very thing her brand lacks. But let's not hold our breath. Because if history tells us anything, it's that Meghan doesn't change course. She changes narrative when something fails. It's never her fault. It's the media. It's the patriarchy. It's the public's inability to appreciate her vision. But never does the finger point inward. And that's where the danger lies. Because what we're watching isn't just the collapse of a product. It's the collapse of an entire identity campaign. For years, Meghan carefully constructed an image of herself as the silenced duchess, the misunderstood wife, the brave mother pushing back against impossible odds. And many believed it. But with every failed launch, that image becomes harder to defend. Spotify was supposed to be her voice. Netflix was supposed to be her platform. Archetypes was supposed to be her legacy. And now, as ever, was supposed to be her empire, her future, her luxury rebirth. Instead, it's her biggest public humiliation yet. And with it comes a hard truth. Meghan Markle isn't just losing credibilities, it's losing relevance. And if you think this is just about Meghan, think again. This is about a culture that rewards the performance of authenticity more than authenticity itself. It's about how we've allowed branding to replace substance, how we cheer for curated struggles, rehearse pain for sympathy, and call it inspiration. But eventually the audience wakes up. Eventually, someone like Jon Stewart picks up a glass and says the quiet part out loud. That this wine tastes like PR, that this brand smells like strategy, that this woman once hailed as the new face of modern royalty has become a parody of the very institution she once challenged. And when the laughter fades, all that's left is a broken bottle, an abandoned product, and a duchess running out of spins. So what now? Will Meghan continue the illusion, chasing redemption through another tear-soaked documentary, or a surprise tell-all? Or will she finally face what's ever truly revealed, that the world no longer believes in the narrative she's selling because the public isn't asking for perfection? They're asking for truth. And truth doesn't come with filtered vineyard photos. sunlit captions, or designer bottles filled with mediocrity. It comes with honesty. It comes with humility. And right now, those are the only things Meghan Markle's brand is missing. So, let this be the final takeaway. We're not just witnessing a failed wine launch. We're witnessing the slow disintegration of a carefully crafted illusion. An illusion that relied too heavily on story and too little on sincerity. A brand can survive bad press. It can survive backlash. But it can't survive being mocked. When Jon Stewart raised that wine glass and cracked that joke, it wasn't just comedy. It was cultural permission. Permission for the public to stop pretending, to stop sympathizing, to finally say, we see through it and we're done. And Meghan, she has a choice to make, because the next thing she bottles might be apologies. Not rose. If you've made it this far and want more content that dives beneath the branding, challenges the spin, and keeps public figures honest, don't forget to subscribe. We bring you the real story, not the one dressed up in designer gowns and Instagram captions. Truth travels fast, and it's time more people heard it. Thanks for watching. Stay bold, stay skeptical, and stay tuned.